Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the last unit, that is fifth unit. Our first topic is mining data streams. So, what is meant by a data stream? So, data stream is the data that is continuous, order, changing, and fast and huge amount of data. So, this streaming data, unlike the DBMS, we are going to store the finite data sets. So, what are the characteristics related to the data streams? Are it is continuous data, and possibly since it is a continuous data, it is an infinite amount of data that is coming to the processing, and we have fast changing, and we need to respond in a very less time, and data stream captures very nice and data processing of today, that is, and we have the run we have a single scan algorithms, and we need to store the summary, that is we need to store even the historical data of that particular data streams, uh, and we need to also see that the it is whatever the data that is there coming, which is in the form of a low level or a multi-dimensional in nature. So it has to be formed into the multi-level and multi-dimensional processing. So that application related to the data streams are telecommunication, business, network, financial, marketing, engineering and industrial process, sensors monitoring, security monitoring, and so on. So coming to the differences between the databases and the data stream management system. So here in the databases, you write one-time queries, but here you need to process continuous queries. You can have the random access, but here you have to have the sequential access. We have the unbounded disk storage over here. We are bounded the main memory in the data streams. Only the current data is being mattered, but we need to also check for the historical data in the data streams. There is no real-time services in database, but real-time requirements are needed. So where the rate of the data that is coming will be very low, but you need to have the data, and possibly you need to have some GBs of data to be processed. It can be of any granularity, that is when you are dividing into the data cubes, so the level of granularity, but here you need to define them into fine granularity. And here in the databases it contains the precise data, but in the data streams it contains the imprecises. And here in the databases we are going to determine using the query processor and physical database design, wherein as in the data streams we are having unpredictable, we need to uh, evaluate them based on their characteristics or the variables that may arrive in that particular processing. Coming to the next one, data stream management systems. So here you can observe the architecture of the data stream query processing. So in this you have the at the top level you have the user applications, and in this you have the stream query processor and the main memory. So whenever the stream of data is arriving, we are going to put the data in form of representation in the main memory, that is you need to maintain the historical data. So we are going to take the synopsis of the data and we are going to store them into the main memory, and continuously from the user you have the number of queries that are coming to the query processor. Similarly we need to uh, process that particular queries, and results has to be given to the user. So what are the challenges of the data stream processing is, since the data is multiple, continuous, rapid and time variant, so the computation should be more over here. So oftenly the queries can be of continuous queries or the complex queries. So whenever the data is coming continuously, we need to even update it over time to the user. Similarly, whenever the data is complex, we need to process them based on the element, based on the stream, or based on the queries. So either you may have the multi-level or the multi-dimensional processing in the data. So the query, whenever you are processing the stream queries, so the query time can be one-time query or a continuous queries. So one-time query is nothing but the query which may be given, evaluated. Continuous query is nothing but whenever the query is coming continuously, you need to ad hocly give the data written results to the queries. And we have sometimes the predefined queries based on the issues that are coming. So then coming to the unbounded memory requirements. So for a real-time response, main memory algorithm should be used. So main memory required is unbounded if one will join the future tuples. Coming to the query answering. So like I said, when we are having the continuous query, so we have a bounded memory and it is always possible to extract the answers since we are noting down the synopsis of that particular data and we need to represent them into a high quality answers. So like the sketches, random sampling, histograms or wavelets. So the methodologies of the data stream processings are random sampling, histograms, sliding window, multi-resolution models, sketches and randomized algorithm. Coming to the first one, that is random sampling. So in random sampling, a small set of records is selected at random from a data stream. That is, every record in the stream should be of equal chance in the sample, and the query is processed or pattern discovery can be done. And instead of the entire data stream, we are going to take the pattern from that particular random selected samples, and here we are going to use the sampling. So based on the reservoir sampling, that is, every time you may not have the taking the data of a required data may exist or may not be exist. So what it will do is it will maintain the certain set of certain samples of data in a form of a reservoir, which we can say as a reservoir sampling, and these are used for the calculation of the probabilities, and every time we are going to replace the old reservoir with the new one. Coming to the next one, that is sliding window. So in this sliding window, we have the most recent records that can be there, and we can take the window size, and using this pattern discovery we can do the sliding window. So in this approach, we need to have the typically we are going to take the recent sliding window time, and the element the time that is there expires, that is time plus the window size. Next, coming to the histograms. So is in the histograms we use the representation of the frequency distribution of an attribute in a data set. So we are going to store them in form of the histograms. So every time the attribute is partitioned into number of buckets and the frequency of each buckets are stored into the histograms. So that we are going to take there are number of histograms based on the same width, same frequency, same depth or V optimal histograms. Coming to the multi-resolution. So in multi-resolution, we have the common methods like balanced binary trees, microclusters and wavelets transformation. So in the balanced tree, we are going to maintain the new data outcomes by providing the different resolutions from root of the tree. Then we have the microclusters. Here we are using the CF, that is clustering feature, using the bridge methodology. the micro clusters which are merged into form the macro clusters into form of a clusters. Then wavelets, we are going to take the here wavelet, like where we are going to wavelet transformation, where we are going to break down each particular wave and we are going to process them using the principal component analysis and so on, or Fourier transformation. Then coming to the sketches, we have the histograms and wavelets which have multi passes over the data. So here we have a single pass. The frequency is noted down using this particular formula. So coming to the next one, that is data stream using the data cube or multi-dimensional OLAP analysis. So the challenges of the mining the dynamic in the data streams are, so generally whenever this stream of data comes, it is always low level and multi-dimensional in nature. So we need to process them into multi-level and multi-dimensional processing. So we need to analyze the requirements like the multi-dimensional trends and the patterns that are existing which are unusual, and we also have the important changes in the multi-dimensional levels, and we need to detect them the real-time detection and responses, and we need to follow even the similarities and the differences that are existing. So in the data cube computation, we have three methods. One is the tilted time frame, other one is the critical layers, and the third one is the partial material of stream cubes. First one, coming to the tilted time frame. So in tilted time frame, we are going to use the different time frames like second, minute, quarter, hour, day and week. When coming to the critical layers, we have the two types of layers. One is the M layer, another one is the O layer. So one is the that is minimum interest layer, another one is the observation layer. So based on the observation layers, the dimensions are furtherly divided into the cube computation into drilling down. That is, if you have in the M layer of the quarter data, then we can divide the data using the time basis on week, month, week, day as well as the second. So drilling down the data. Coming to the partial materialization of a stream cubes. In the partial materialization, we have full materialization, no materialization and partial materialization. So full materialization is nothing but we are going to data cube computation is done based on the each dimensions. So materializing, that is forming them into form of 0th level, 1th level, 2nd level and so on till all the dimensions are formed. So materializing them into the all this data. Suppose if we have the, like we have already said about the, so like if you have the attributes like A, B and C, so we are going to materialize them as A, B, C. Then you have A, B, B, C, C, A. Then again you have A, B, C. Here you have individual parts as A, B and C. So 0th level, first level, second level and third level. Where here 0th level you have the null sets, and here in the first level you may have the individual data, then combination of data and finally all the data dimensions. So like that you are going to form this full materialization. If the more number of dimensions increases, the space may not be there, and also it is time consuming. So another one is no materialization. So no materialization is something whenever the query comes, then only that particular data is being computed, then also it will take more number of time. So this is also not feasible. So we are going for a method called as partial materialization. So coming to the in the above methods, we have first method, that is tilted time model. So in the tilted time model, we have three types of models. One is the natural, another one is the logarithmic, another one is the pyramid. So coming to the first one, natural tilted time frame. So in the natural tilted time frame, we have the time frame in form of a quarters, then we form them into the number of days, then into the hours, and number into the months. So like that we are going to form the time frames, and in the form of a tilted time frames, logarithmic time frames, we are going to take the each minute, that is t seconds, then 2t, 4t, 16t, 60, 40, so on. Similarly, in the pyramidal time frame, we are going to take the frame numbers. In this each frame number, we are going to take every time with a particular clock time a snapshot is being taken, and we are going to accommodate with the respective snapshots. For example, here I have taken the snapshot value as 3. If there are more than 3 snapshots, then we are going to remove that particular value. So every time we are saying there are 5 frame values in particular frame. So these 5 frames, so whenever the new time frame comes, we are going to remove the old one. So in the critical layers, like I said, we are going to compute based on the two layers. One is the M layer, another one is the O layer. So the minimum interest value. So whenever you take the observation value, we are going to get the high dimensional confined dimensions that are there in form of a quarters. So whenever you have a query based upon the each individual dimension, then we are going to drill down to a lowest level, and then we are going to get the pattern based on that particular data. For example, if you have the user with have theme and quarter, and if this particular quarter time is based upon the second, you drill down to the last level, that is stream data layer, and you take this particular individual data and you are going to give the query. Then coming to the online partial materialization versus OLAP processing. So in the materialization, we are going to have the particular time and space are being taken. So the materialization can be increased by using the tilted time frame. So in partial materialization is nothing but forming few number of data computed which are mostly occurring. So like we have taken the attributes like A, B, C. So if the mostly occurring attributes like B and C are coming mostly, then what it will do is this processing tool will always pre-compute the based upon the whatever the dimensions which are occurring frequently. So it will already pre-computed the data cube, that is B and C. If any query comes based on this particular computation, so it will easily give that particular result in fractions of second. So that is nothing but partial materialization. So only materialization of a cuboids based on the critical layers. So in the critical layers, we are observed that we are only confined about the last layer, that is the all, that is A, B, C dimensions. So in this last layer, it is confined. So whenever you compute even this, then also it takes too much of time, because we are not having the one or two dimension. They may have number of dimensions that are existing in the data. So what is the preferred solution that has to be formed is nothing but using the popular path or H-tree structures. So popular path is nothing but materializing those along the popular drilling paths. So like that, whatever the paths that are occurring most frequently, those paths are being materialized. Then forming the H-tree structures. So we are going to cuboid using the tree structures. So cuboid can be computed and stored efficiently using the H-tree structures. So how they can be done using the online aggregation or based on the query based computation. So aggregating the values or based upon the query base that are coming, we can form the cuboids. So like this we are going to form number of cuboids. So we are going to achieve the path. So aggregating those values. So we are, if at all we have a query based upon certain values like C2, then we are going to achieve the data. So from this path we have the C2 over here. From here we have value over here C2, and then over here to here, then over to here. So these may be the path of data that we want to achieve. Likewise, we are going to have the H3 cubing structure, where you can have the observation layers in form of a cities. Then you have several links to that particular data. Then you are going to accommodate the each information based upon the values, and finally you are going to get the information in this form of a record, like the stream data of from this particular time to this particular time, that is 156 records. From 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. there are 201 records. Like this it is going to maintain in the at the end of the structure. Then benefits of using the H3 or H cubing. So it is fast cubing and it's space preserving in the cube computation. We are taking the only the total computation of the dimension. We are only going for the beneath levels only when it is required. So the intermediate aggregated values are computed incrementally and saved into the tree nodes. Then we are going to have the multi-dimensional analysis, and we compute using viewed as a stream cube. Then coming to the what is meant by the frequent pattern analysis. So in the frequent pattern analysis, a pattern is said to be a frequent if it only satisfies the minimum support value. So there are certain item sets which are also infrequent. So to the number of infrequent item sets are exponential, and we need to keep track them based up. So we have to keep track. So based upon two approaches. One, we need to keep track on the only predefined values, and second approach is based on the derivation of an approximate sets. So here we need to find out the approximate sets. So these approximate sets are based upon the trend and the pattern analysis. So using the methods like the finding out the frequency, so we are going to use the two methods. One is the minimum threshold value, which is can be given as the sigma, and the other value is error bound value, which is nothing but epsilon value. So we are going to use the algorithm called as lossy counting algorithm. So it will trace down the items which are only frequent, and it also guarantees the errors that are there in the frequent patterns. So we are going to use the lossy counting frequent items. Whenever the stream data comes, we are going to put them into number of buckets, and we are going to take only the patterns which are frequently occurred. So here we are going to decrease the counters by 1. So to find out the pattern, so when you are seeing the red color boxes here, so we have 4 here, and since we are decreasing the counter by 1, we can see only three parts, and here also we have the 2 yellow one where we are decreasing by 1, so there are only 1. So how many patterns we have at the end? We have come with 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 patterns over here, but we at the end of the data we are noting only 2 patterns. Like that, in the second bucket, for the next bucket, the previous one plus the data stream that has come. So the previous one we have the three boxes of red, and with the new one which we have 4 boxes, again we are decrementing the counter by 1. So we have about 6 boxes over here, and since we already have one yellow box and there is another one box which are one data which coming with an object coming with yellow, then you can see it is, since we are decrementing, you have one yellow, and there are two patterns which are coming with black, which is decremented by 1. Like this, we are going to count the number of patterns which are coming, and we are going to take the what are the error bound and also the threshold value. So based on its threshold value, the threshold value is it has to support minimum value of 2, and the error threshold value is calculated by using the epsilon, and the n is the length of the stream that is coming. So we are going to count the frequent counts by using the sigma minus epsilon by the total number of length that is coming. So we can find out the frequency counter error by using epsilon n. So it will guarantee that the lossy counting will guarantee that there are no false negatives, and false positive has a true frequency count of at least this value, and frequency count underestimated at this value. That means lossy counting algorithm will say that I will give particular values. It may be having certain errors, but we can approximate guarantee that there are no false patterns that are coming. There may be certain false, but certain true frequency patterns may exist. So the frequency item sets that may exist in the bucket 1. So whenever you put the data, that is bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3 of all the items into the main memory, and we have the decrease each frequency count by 3. In the previous method, how we have decreased, the similar manner if we decrease the frequency count by 3. So this is the summary values of the each bucket. So once you get the summary data, then we are going to take the data which is the item sets which are having only these combinations, which we are going to delete, and we are having the frequently occurred data, and we are going to retrieve in this manner. So coming to the pruning item sets, we are going to prune the data which are not frequent, and we are only considering the data which are frequent. So based on the a priori rule. So coming to the summary of a lossy counting. So the strength is it is very simple, and which is extended to find out the frequent item sets. But when coming to the disadvantages related to the lossy counting, is it is very space bound is not good, and it has to scan each record many times, the output based on the all previous data, and not interested in the recent data. So like this you have disadvantages. Then coming to the stream classification. So in classification models, we have the classification based on very fast decision trees and CV very fast decision tree, that is conceptive adapting very fast decision tree. So we need, which is very good model for fast changing data like stock markets, and other classification methods like Navy Bayesian, Ensemble, and K nearest neighbors. Here also we are using the tilted time framework, incremental updating, and so on. So we need to find out the, so we have here a Hofting tree. So in this we are going to find out the high probability that are classifying the same tuple values. So here is the formula for calculating the probability, where R is the range of the random variables and the n values are the individual observations, and epsilon with the probability of 1 minus g. So here we have the algorithm. So this g is the evaluation functions. We are going to use this particular formula. If the evaluation function of A minus the evaluation function of B is greater than the epsilon value, then we are going to have the split values. For example, if we have the data stream that is coming, and we put that particular value as If the packet is having greater than 10 numbers, then we can divide them into two classes, which is yes or no. Then again we take the values based on the number of bytes. So here again we are going to divide them into number of classes. Here we have the based on the number of type of protocol that is coming. So like that we are going to form into number of classes and classify them. So there is a strengths and weaknesses. So the advantages of using the Hofding tree is we have the based upon the better classification methods. We have the very small memory utilization, and we can parallelly, whenever the new attributes comes, we can parallelly classify them based on the classes that are there. But to make that particular classes, it takes lot of time, and it is the memory used for the tree expansion, that is it lot of memory used for the tree expansion. And since the number of candidate attributes increases, the efficiency may decrease. Then coming to the very fast decision tree. So modification to the Hofding tree we can find in very fast. So here it will see that the classifications are broken down easily, and it is computed with the less number of time, and it will see that whatever the leaves which are not there, leaves which are not required, that leaves are deactivated. And it will also see that the attributes which are not required, which can be dropped. And it will see that it will help in the traditional learning, it is helping learning the curve. So compared to the Hofding tree, it is having a better time and memory. So compare with the traditional decision tree, we have the similar accuracy. Whatever the accuracy that is used for the decision tree, the same accuracy may exist using this particular concept. Then concept adapting very fast decision tree. So as the time changes, the data stream will also have the new data. So it can easily incorporate the new and eliminate the old values, as it is having the count value as new example, and decreasing the old examples like sliding window. It will always refresh it will always take the only the new values based upon the time and the window size. Similarly, here also it will take based upon the new values, and it will alternate goes the subtrees, and whenever the alternate more accurate, it will replace the old one. So it is better runtime than the VFDT, that is very fast decision tree window. Then it is more concept adapting is more faster than the very fast. Coming to the next method, that is assemble classifier algorithm. Here it will take the chunk of data and it will classify the data. So it will test on that particular chunk based on the assigning certain weights on the classifiers, and it will always take the top k classifiers and classify the data. Coming to the last one, that is stream cluster analysis. In the stream cluster analysis, we are going to use a method called as K-median method. So in K-median method, the data stream points are being taken, and we are going to find out the sum of the distance of the data points which are closest to that particular data. So if it is closest, then we are going to take this particular point as the pattern. So we are going to take the algorithm like we have a constant factor approximation algorithm. In this, we have two steps. One is we are going to take set of M records with O as a center. Then we have local clustering, that is assigning each point S as a closest center. Then with the S1, S2 and so on, we are going to find out the each center and find out the medians. So like this we have the data points. In these data points we are going to find out the median values, and we are going to merge the values into the next level. So once you have formed certain cluster, again at that particular level we are again forming the merging level to the top, where we are going to classify them into, put them into form of a cluster. So there in the hierarchical tree there are certain drawbacks. So it is easy to it is maintaining the easy like median into number of levels, and even the weights are being assigned, the intermediate medians are being assigned to them. And the drawbacks related to them are, it is having the low quality of evaluating the data stream, and it is limited functionality in discovering or exploring the cluster over a different portions. Since there is over time the stream data will be changing, so it is not useful, that it is only used for the limited functionality but not for the streaming data. Then coming to the last method, that is clustering for the mining streaming dynamic. So here we are going to use the methods like the microclustering and time-tailed framework. So here two stages of microclustering and macroclustering. So once this data is taken using the distance methodology, we are going to take the data in form of clusters into microcluster. Then we are going to aggregate with the other points that are existing in the data points, forming into the macro clusters. So we can have the clue stream framework. So it can it can easily have the high quality of clustering can be evolved using this method, and it has a greater functionality. So it is done in one pass the original data, one time scan can be done, and it takes the limited space and high efficiency. So what it will do is, it divides the into the online and offline components. The clustering data is divided into online and offline components. The online components are periodically stores the summary statistics about the stream data, and the offline data, it answers the various user question based on the stored summary statistics. So microclusters, we are using the statistical information of the data locality. So it uses the clustering feature vector. So in clustering feature vector, we are going to take the root of that particular value, forming into the number of clustering features. So always this particular root will have the child data clustering features, and the data that can have the threshold value of number of childs, and also the each particular clustering factors, and the threshold value of splitting into the number of points. So all that it is being noted by the root. So each time the point contains the dimensionality, timestamp and so on. And we have another method, that is pyramidal time frame. So it will take the snapshot of the each statistical information and stored in the disk, and at particular period of threshold value, like we have discussed in the earlier, that is in the methodology coming to the clustering, that is statistical information, where you are going to take snapshots. So each snapshot, if you have the threshold value as 3, once if it is coming with 4, those are eliminated. Like this we are going to have the similar statistical information using the snapshots. Then in the how we are going to maintain the micro clusters. So initially creation of micro clusters, it is significantly larger than the number of natural clusters. So since the initial clusters you may have number of more clusters, then we are going them to merge them based upon the two closest one. we are going to merge. Then finally we are going to form into the one clusters. So in the macro clusters, we are going to compute based on the certain method, distance method like k-means algorithm. So this is about the mining the data streams. Thank you.